the real goal is oil, or at least part of the goal is oil. And the way to do that is by destabilization. And if destabilization doesn't work, military occupation, communism. You like the weekend? Thank a union for that. Thank some communists for that, okay? Anyway, but Donald Trump is, like I said, trying to war max to the best of his ability. The U.S. conducted a lethal strike in southern Caribbean on a vessel which departed from Venezuela. They are basically combining the war on terror with the war on drugs. Okay, this is something that they're testing out for Mexico as well. And I do think that this is a terrifying prospect in general. I don't like where this is headed. You know, that's where we're going. You're stealing Nick Fuentes' talking points? Nick Fuentes' talking points? That's a fucking neo-Nazi, big dog. If you feel like I'm stealing his talking points, you should probably go check in with him. That is I've never actually experienced this accusation in my fucking career. That's crazy. Also, yeah, I don't think Nick Fuentes is against the utilization of the National Guard to fix the fucking quote-unquote crime problem. What the fuck? Anyway, and that's where we're at. In every single circumstance, the American government loves pushing the wrong solutions. In many instances, they even make up the incidents themselves to determine how to solve these the hysteria that they have created. Okay? As far as like immigrant crime, this is a great example of this. The notion that migrants, undocumented migrants, are responsible for a larger share of crime than natural-born U.S. citizens is false. It is actually the exact opposite. And yet they kept repeating it over and over again until basically everybody decided this was the truth. And then once they created this hysteria, they had to fix it. A problem that doesn't exist, right? A problem that is not real at all. This doesn't mean that like undocumented migrants do zero crimes. Of course, everybody does crimes. But the reason why I stress this, the reason why I mention this is because if there is no significant major undocumented migrant crime actually happening, but they're consistently claiming that there is one, then what do? They use that as a just cause to deport as many migrants as possible. Migrants that aren't doing anything wrong. They're just simply existing. Migrants that have actually experienced injustice in the form of not having their documentation properly processed and cleared in a timely manner. That's precisely the reason why none of the motherfuckers that you see getting deported right now, having their heads shaven, are actually rugged criminals at all. That's it. They're not. They're just getting apprehended at their court case, at their immigration court hearings. They're getting ripped away from their families. They're getting raided at the Home Depot parking lot. You think that they're getting raided at farms? You think MS-13, these decapitators are standing around in a fucking Home Depot parking lot trying to work for $100 a day? What are you, crazy? That's not happening at all. So what happened? I thought we were arresting and prosecuting and deporting all of these major criminals. Turns out that's not the case. And the same goes for this Venezuela apprehension. Like there's military movement happening in the direction of Venezuela. Donald Trump, for some reason, out of like all of the more authoritarian strongman leaders around the globe, has a lot of smoke for Maduro, right? I don't know what it is, because given his like reverence for a lot of other popular and even unpopular strongmen around the world, for some reason he just does not like Maduro. I don't know what it is. He's just never liked Maduro. Maybe it's oil. Maybe that's the reason. He's just like selfishly holding on to all of these sweet, juicy oil, these Venezuelan oil. The Venezuelan oil. It's not. I don't think it's a Marco Rubio influence, because he doesn't respect Marco Rubio and didn't in this first term, but he still shat all over Maduro a lot. He's the Mexican one. Nope, that doesn't work either. He liked AMLO. He had a cordial relationship with AMLO. He has a cordial relationship with Claudia Sheinbaum. So that doesn't make a lot of sense either. Okay. Also, Jair Bolsonaro is brown, and he fucking loves that dipshit. And we'll obviously talk about that too. But for some reason, they've been egging on this war initiative, rolling out a war initiative against Venezuela. And Rubio just put this out from Phil Stewart at Reuters. The U.S. military conducted a lethal strike in the southern Caribbean against a drug vessel which had departed from Venezuela and was being operated by a designated narco-terrorist organization. As far as I understand, Venezuela is not a significant hub for drug trafficking. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I've never really seen Venezuela be a significant hub for drug trafficking from Southern America. The continent, are there a lot of drugs there? Certainly. Do they make their way up to North America? Certainly. But as far as like Venezuela being like a narco state, that's not exactly the case. So I think it's just a pretense that they're utilizing. But yeah, the United States uses a fabricated, this is from the People's Dispatch. I assume this is a trot paper, but who knows? The deployment of ships and troops to the Caribbean is a part of a larger offensive by Trump administration alleging Venezuela plays a central role in drug trafficking, contradicting reports from the United States and international agencies. Wait, what is People's Dispatch? In the last year, United States government agencies began to repeat the name Tren de Aragua as if it were the new Al-Qaeda. And yeah, that was another domestic way to tackle the Venezuelan crime issue, which is interesting because Donald Trump, for political purposes, had actually opened up the floodgates of asylum for Venezuelan migrants and gave them TPS, temporary protected status, as he did with the Haitian migrants as well. And what's interesting about this is that despite the fact that he did that and also continued the temporary protected, he extended the TPS provisions for Venezuelan migrants even on his way out, he then turned around and used the existing new wave of Venezuelan migrants to claim that all of the Venezuelan migrants were actually now a part of a new criminal enterprise, one that is similar to MS-13, Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua, as far as Tren de Aragua goes, it's nowhere near as competent or as vast or has like a criminal network that is anywhere near MS-13. That's not correct at all. It's just like another fucking prison gang. It was just used as a pretext to handle domestic, basically like target Venezuelans deliberately. But they declared Tren de Aragua then in January 2025 a foreign terrorist organization. And in March, the administration invoked the Alien Enemies Act to warn against the invasion of the United States by Tren de Aragua. Literally just made up. Okay, they made it up. It's not like a super significant gang at all. It's just this isn't to say that there aren't gangs like gangs that revolve around the narcotics trade, gangs that have actually collaborated throughout history with the American State Department as well, both in like getting opening up logistics, supply chains or supply lines that go directly into the American markets in exchange for weapons usually. So like the notion that Tren de Aragua is anywhere near as competent as like even MS-13 or the Zetas or any number of different like Mexican cartels, for example, is ridiculous. Okay, but in the U.S. State Department in February 2025, this is off of Vijay Prashad's reporting on People's Dispatch. The U.S. State Department in February 2025 had declared the Tren de Aragua was an international drug cartel on par with such already recognized cartels as Mexican Las Zetas, now known as Cartel del Noreste, Sinaloa, and Jalisco cartels, as well as the Mara Salvatrucha MS-13 that was formed in Los Angeles and has now taken root in El Salvador thanks to a decades-long U.S. deportation policy. Unlike Tren de Aragua, these other cartels are well known and their work has been frequently documented by the DEA. The most recent DEA report for 2025 confirms several facts about the drug cartels that traffic vast amounts of drugs from cocaine to fentanyl into the United States. Salvatrucha? Did I say it wrong? Salvatru. Okay, whatever. It's MS-13. It's MS-13. MS-Trucha. Chucha. Salvatrucha. Okay. Sorry. I've been reading too much Hebrew names and shit. So I'm hitting the Salvatruch Hamas. Okay. In any case, since 2019, the DEA and other agencies have tracked the movement of lethal drugs being carted via the Caribbean and Central American landline to the Pacific Ocean route. Drugs leave the ports of Peru, Esmeraldas in Ecuador, and Buenaventura in Colombia for the ports such as Puerto Escondido in Mexico before they are carted into the U.S. market. Over 80% of the lethal drugs that go along the Pacific coastline, according to the United Nations World Drug Report 2025, while only just about 10% go across the Caribbean Sea. For a very long time now, the DEA has made the accurate assessment that most of the drugs entering the United States come from the Andes, Central America, and Mexico. So what does Tren de Aragua have to do with any of this, since it's a prison gang created inside of a Tocaron prison in central Venezuela, about 150 kilometers away from Caracas? The gang was created in 2012 by Hector Rushtonford Nino Guerrero Flores, a convicted criminal who escaped from prison in 2023 and has not been seen since. Nino Guerrero's gang, Tren de Aragua, is accused of taking advantage of the migration out of Venezuela to build its network in the United States and elsewhere across Latin America to expand its trafficking opportunities through this migration web. However, it is more than likely that the actual network does not exist, but that former Tren de Aragua members have consolidated themselves as nodes for criminal activity in different places. Guerrero is wanted in Venezuela and has a migration alert from Chile, where he is believed to have taken refuge amongst 500,000 Venezuelans living in the southern cone country. The United States government has targeted Tren de Aragua and Guerrero, offering a $12 million bounty in reward for his arrest, but Guerrero is nowhere to be found. Okay? So how does the United States government go from a legitimate concern for the entry of drugs in the country to sending 7 U.S. warships and 1 nuclear-powered submarine to encircle Venezuela for an enhanced counter-narcotics operation? It is basically building a mountain out of a molehill by packaging up real existing criminal networks of drug trafficking as a just cause to encircle a foreign adversary with juicy, delicious oil, with natural resources that we would like to extract with foreign corporations. Okay? That's it. Every single thing that the American government does, and you've seen this with Israel, you've seen this with Iran, is basically a relitigation of the weapons of mass destruction in different formats. Okay? That's it. The actual goals that they have in mind are a regime change and extraction of natural resources in the hands of foreign profiteers. But the way to do that is by war. The way to do that is by military occupation. If covert destabilization initiatives fail, and they have failed time and time again, Maduro has been able to withstand all of these foreign interventions in spite of his own personal unpopularity in Venezuela, due to his mismanagement and his incompetence and his brutality as well, alongside the choking of the Venezuelan economy, a deliberate attempt by the Trump administration at Trump 1, and then continued along with the Joe Biden administration's implemented sanctions regime. Ultimately, the real goal is oil, or at least part of the goal is oil. And the way to do that is by destabilization. And if destabilization doesn't work, military occupation. And the way to justify military occupation on a permanent war against a foreign adversary is by doing this shit. By trying to find any reason whatsoever to push for more military encirclement, encroachment, and then maybe even create a security incident. That's why I said it's like Gulf of Tonkin. You start putting Navy vessels around the Venezuelan coastline, and then inevitably there is going to be some kind of back and forth. When that back and forth takes place, then you go, see, this is an international incident. This is an international incident. They have attacked our big, beautiful Navy. What the fuck was the Navy doing there in the first place? Oh, that's right, to find this devious cartel operation. How will these warships, which are just outside the Venezuelan sea boundary, do anything to either catch Guerrero or stop Tren de Aragua or prevent cartels from carrying drugs to the United States? Guerrero is most likely not in Venezuela. His gang operates across Latin America and in the United States, and most of the drugs are carted through the Pacific Ocean and not the Caribbean Sea. So what are these warships doing off Venezuela's coastline, even though the U.S. says that they are on an anti-cartel mission? In April 2025, the United States increases awards for the arrest of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro from 25 to 50 million. The reason given for this increased bounty is that the U.S. accuses Maduro of being the leader of the cartel of the Suns, Cartel de los Soles. The term cartel of the Suns was first used in 1993 to describe the activity of some senior military officers and anti-narcotic officials in the drug trade. This was long before the entry of Hugo Chavez into the presidential palace in 1999. The term was used because of the solar symbol on the uniforms of high-ranking Venezuelan army officers. Okay? There was no actual cartel. After Chavez's death, several exiled Venezuelan journalists wrote books picking up on Marcano's observation about the Suns, but now arguing that there was an organized cartel and not just some corrupt officers. Central among these books is Hector Landeata's Chavismo, Narcotráfico y Militares, Chavismo, drug trafficking in the military. So they're just building up on pre-existing metas to claim that the leader of Venezuela currently, Maduro, is also continuing along with this like drug trafficking, I guess. But ultimately, there is no evidence whatsoever that has been presented that Venezuela is a major hub for drug trafficking. And this is coming from the DEA's own assessment and coming from international organizations that actively look into where the known networks of drug, known networks and known supply lines for drugs actually exist. So that is where we're at. Just like I said, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And there's crime in Chicago. So what must we do? We must send in the military. You want, we have one speed, and that is the utilization of the military. This is like a typical dying empire shit.